There you are.
Amazing.
Excellent. Hi, how are you?
I'm really good, thank you. How are you?
Good. So should we just get rolling?
Let's do it.
Okay. So I am Janelle Cameron. I am from Optimize Your Ride. I am a strength and performance coach, and I am located in central Alberta, Canada. And I'm here today talking with Andrea, and I'll just let you introduce yourself quick.
Yeah, thank you, Janelle. So I am a dietitian, a provisional sports dietitian, and a certified intuitive eating counselor. My business is the Equestrian Athlete, or I'm at Ride Nutrition on Instagram. I help riders improve their relationship with food and their body, and fuel well for their pursuits as equestrian athletes.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we met over Instagram, so it's kind of fun connecting. We've done one live before, so this is our second one, and tonight we are going to talk about goal setting. So why don't you go first, Andrea, and let us know what your top tips are for goal setting.
Yeah, for sure. So I think I mentioned in my post about this live a couple of weeks ago that I'm not a huge fan of the traditional SMART goal approach. And I think that that comes from my kind of lens as a non-diet dietitian or a, an intuitive eating counselor. Um, so I guess my first goal, first tip around setting goals is rather than making them this really hard and fast goal, think about setting intentions. Um, so an example of this would be rather than going, okay, I'm going to have a proper meal at lunchtime 5 days a week. Um, think about making it a goal of, okay, well, I'm going to have try for the most part to have lunches that contain some carbohydrates, some protein, and some fat because I know that that makes me feel better and will actually sustain me through the rest of the day. So you can see how that's quite a different approach there. It
Hmm.
because we're not kind of putting those specifics and time frames around it, it does make it a little harder to kind of go, okay, well, I've definitely achieved happen, but at the same time, you're going to know whether that has supported you to feel better or not.
That probably encourages more long-term change too, would you say?
Yes, that's the idea, and kind of links into the next tip that I have, which is around thinking of setting these actions based in self care rather than self control. And it is definitely much more motivating to do something that makes us feel good rather than something that we just think we should do.
Totally. I love that. Do you have an
So
example of that for us?
yeah. So kind of coming back to that lunchtime example of I'm going to try and have lunches that have got some a protein rich food, a carbohydrate rich food, some fat, and maybe some salad or veggies because I know that that does it gives me energy that's going to last for the rest of the day. I'm not going to get hungry again in an hour versus if I just had like a chicken garden salad that's got no carbohydrates and minimal fat in it, which is probably not going to make me feel full for very long. Um, so that I guess that intention of having that lunch because it makes me feel good is really going to be what you to stick with in the long term, and it's also much more flexible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
And then my last tip was really being kind to yourself. So if you set this intention and then you aren't able to follow through with it or it doesn't quite work, don't use that as a stick to beat yourself with. Use it as a opportunity. So, uh, you've got to Monday and you said, okay, this week I'm going to make myself these meals that are going to help me feel full and satisfied during the week. And then you get halfway through the week and you realize you haven't been able to do that any day so far. And then you go, well, yeah, actually, that was because I was a bit disorganized and I hadn't gone shopping. And so I didn't have ingredients. That's actually a really good learning for you that, perhaps you need to actually have a little bit of a plan at the start of the week about some of those different things that you're going to make for yourself at those meals. So then you can go grocery shopping, make sure you've got the ingredients. Perhaps you even need to, if it's lunch that you're going to take into an office for work, perhaps you even need to make that up the night before. I know for me, if I leave things to do until the morning, it just doesn't happen because I'm not a morning person. Um, so again, you can see how that idea of like, okay, well, it didn't work, but why didn't it work? And what can I do to make sure that it's easier for me to do this thing that's going to make it better in the future? That's a very different approach than, oh, that didn't work. I suck. I'm a bad person.
Yeah. Well, I think that ties so well into your tip about like self-care rather than self-control. Um, and like that idea of like how do I learn to take care of myself? What do I need? Instead of like, what do I have to do to be successful? I think that really ties in. Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess that like those examples that I've talked about are quite that's kind of about our structured day-to-day eating, but those same things can actually apply when we're looking at sports nutrition principles for athletes. So say your intention is to stay better hydrated at a competition because you know that on those days when you don't, you get to the end of the day and you feel like trash. So we can still kind of apply that self-care, and sometimes the plan that we have might be a little bit more structured, but it still comes from that self-care perspective.
I love that. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, an opportunity to feel good at the end of your show day rather than, yeah, again, just like another thing you have to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
And
Um,
perspective on goal setting and what some of the tips that you give your clients are.
okay. I actually I have a love-hate relationship with goal setting. Because I kind of fly by the seat of my pants a lot in my own life. So, a lot of my tips are very like I like things to be practical. So, um, one of my big ones is to make sure that your goals are for you. So, like if you're trying to achieve a goal for another person, you're not going to be as committed to the work that it's going to take to achieve it. So, um, like it's really that simple. You have to know that the goal is for you. Going back to the self-care, what do you need to be successful, or what does success look like for you? So my example here is like I do a lot of roping. So say your roping partner wants to start getting more competitive in the roping arena, and your coach doesn't think you're ready, or like dad thinks you should be using a different rope, or your grandpa's aunt's cousin thinks roping is stupid. Like you're not going to be able to keep everybody else happy. So make sure that you're happy. And if you're happy, just roping in the local practice pen and improving your connection with your horse in the process, then do that and set goals there. And only you can know what's great for you. And as a recovering people pleaser, I'm very passionate about that. So choose goals that are for you.
I love that. I think that's such a good one, and I relate to that on such a personal level. Having been through a time several years ago where I actually didn't want to compete, but I felt this really huge pressure that I had to compete. And it was such a relief. If you don't want to, like, don't force yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're happy where you're at, be where you're at. That's great. I'm glad you're happy. Okay, so my second one is make sure that your goal is realistic and within your control. So this is super important that you can control your ability to be successful in achieving your goal. So if you can't control something, it's going to make the goal really hard to achieve, if not impossible to achieve. So pretty much the only thing that you can actually control is yourself. So, for example, the idea of like, okay, I'm going for a ride and my goal is to keep my horse from spooking. Okay, that's not realistic because your horse isn't actually controllable. Well, you can help determine to some degree how much your horse might react to something. Horses are horses and they still get scared of things. So instead of saying, like, my horse isn't going to spook today, maybe rephrase it and say, okay, last ride when my horse spooked, I didn't like how unsettled I got. So today on this ride, if my horse spooks, I'm going to focus on what I can control. So I'm going to slow and that's what I can control. So that's my goal for today. Okay, so goal. Oh, sorry, did you say something?
Yeah, sorry, I think we have a little slight time lag, but I was just saying I love that focusing on making it something that you can actually control.
Hmm, totally. Um, because yes, sorry, time lapse again. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just saying it's so important for us as riders, like whether that's thinking about what you can control in what your horse does, or um, in dressage, we actually can't control what marks the judge gives us. So making a goal of like I want to achieve 70% at every competition probably isn't that great because you don't have control over the outcome of that.
That is a perfect example. Yeah. So then, like, making a goal of like how you perform your test is more realistic and controllable than trying to control the mark that your judge gives you.
Exactly.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so my third one is to make sure your goal is phrased in positive language. So it's important because instead of saying like, I won't blank, instead say, I will blank. So our brains don't actually differentiate between positive and negative language, and they can leave out certain words in our wording. So when we say something, we focus on it. So if you say, like, I'm not going to kick my horse, your brain is going to be thinking kick, which is the opposite of what our goal actually is. So phrasing it in positive language helps our brains and our bodies respond to that messaging. So instead of saying, I'm not going to kick my horse when he slows down in the corner, instead you can rephrase your goal to say, like, when I start to feel my horse slow down before the corner, I'm going to exhale, engage my core, and give my horse a cue to stay with me through the corner. So you're kind of thinking ahead a little bit and taking that proactive action and being positive about it.
Do you have an example um, of times where your clients might get a little bit caught up on using negative language in their goals of strength training or their off the horse fitness goals?
Totally. So a good example of that actually comes to like eating, and I'm sure you see this all the time where it's like, I'm not going to eat any sweets this week
Yeah,
or whatever time frame it is, right? And in the strength training thing, it's like, okay, I'm not going to puff my belly out while I'm doing my ab work. Or yeah, there's a few different examples, but it just like every time a client of mine, like if I give them a cue, like, okay, try not to puff your belly out during this ab exercise, if that's all they're thinking about, they can't not do it. So instead thinking, okay, I'm going to bring my abs, my ribs in, back and down, and my abs flat, that helps get that stable core that we're looking for ab work, and like rephrasing it in a more positive manner.
That makes sense. And it's, yeah, exactly the same with thinking about food and eating. Like, I would I would really strongly discourage anyone from setting a goal of I'm not going to eat sweets this week. One, because it's that negative language, but also because, you know, we tell ourselves we can't have something, that often makes it even more appealing. And of
Totally.
course, it,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so number 4 is to make sure you can keep your goal consistent in different scenarios. So I see this a lot in the horse world, especially. It's important to stay consistent because every time you change something, there's a learning and adaptation adjustment period that needs to take place. So staying consistent helps you manage stress and overwhelm and the pressure that happens when there's different variables involved. So, an example of this is like, don't change your goals between rides at home, rides at a show, or rides with other variables. So, if you're at a rodeo with like a big jackpot and there's a lot of pressure because you really want to win money, and like the pressure is way higher than when you were just practicing at home. So, when the increase in pressure happens, the goal can often subconsciously usually become, I need to be perfect today. And that's just impossible to achieve. So, in creating a goal, you can run your ideas through a few different scenarios and kind of consider what you need in a higher pressure situation. Can you keep this goal consistent, whether you're out for a casual cow check or if you've got to get a steer doctored before it gets dark and the thunderstorm comes? Can it be achievable in both situations? So, an example of that in the strength world is like, okay, in my workout, can I pick a goal? So going back to the ab work, can I stay consistent in keeping my core stable without puffing out? Can I be consistent in my riding? Yes. If that's my goal in the fitness, like I can take that fitness goal to my riding, and I can take it from my ride at home to my ride in the arena, and I can stay stable with that exhale and good core stabilization. And I'm sure that's like very relevant too to eating. Like, can you stay consistent with your eating goal? A big thing, like for me too, in dieting is like, how do you manage social events?
yes, yeah. And we often see a lot of people who are on diets will actually avoid social events because they can't control there. And that's just not healthy in any way. So that's why I'm very big on having that flexible eating, having a flexible attitude towards food and eating.
Totally. And have something that you can take from home to a social event or like a goal.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, and my last one, I narrowed it down to 5, and it was very hard to do. So number 5 is make sure you give yourself options and know the results of each decision. So if you've ever made a goal before, you know that sticking to them can be very hard, and life always seems to get in the way. So know that you have choices and you can choose your hard. This is especially important for people who are perfectionists and either want to do something perfectly 100% or they're not going to do it at all, right? So give yourself, and even in your riding, give your horse more than one option in a situation to help you break out of your patterns and keep you from getting stuck. So, for example, if I choose my goal to be like, I'm going to exercise for more strength, kind of vague, but we're just going to roll with it. So I'm going to give myself three options. So option number one tonight, I'm feeling really tired. Option number one is I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, and that's nothing. And the result is going to be that I have no change in my life. Okay. Option number two, I'm going to do something that's not too hard. I'm going to go for a walk. The result is that you're doing something, your mind and body are still going to feel better, but you might not get any stronger. Okay. Option three is, heck yeah, I'm going to do a workout even though I'm not really feeling like it. And the result is going to be that I'm going to feel stronger, more stable, and more balanced in my next ride. So I call this exercise maintaining momentum. So giving yourself options and choices, even when your day isn't going perfectly, to still bring you towards your goal.
And I think that probably kind of ties in a little bit with that for the most part, thinking like that we
Mm-hmm.
don't have to exactly as we had intended every single time, like that we're human and things are going to come up, but is there an option that's kind of somewhere in the middle? Like, say if I had planned to make myself those lunches every day, and my day kind of just, something happens and the plan gets unraveled. Well, rather than going, well, I'm just gonna grab whatever's quick and easy. Maybe I look for a way option like Mexican that's still gonna have all of those different, but I don't have to pay. And that's a really great option.
Yeah, love that. Doesn't have to be
Awesome.
100 or zero.
Yeah. Um, cool. So that's kind of brought us to the end of our goal setting
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah, so I do want to say I do have a maintaining momentum worksheet that I would love to send to you guys. So if you message me or email me at optimizeyourride@gmail.com, I will be happy to send it to you. And it's also available in the journals that I created called the My Rides Journal, which is also available by messaging me. And there's pictures of it on my Instagram too, if you're curious about that.
Awesome.
Any final thoughts on goal setting, Andrea?
Um, no, I think just use your learnings from goals that haven't necessarily worked or intentions that haven't gone the way you had planned them to.
Totally.
Yeah.
100%
How about
agree.
closing thoughts?
Um, yeah, it doesn't have to be 100 or zero. And I loved your point. I think that's my favorite point is consider self-care goals rather than self-control goals. That was great.
I'm glad you like that one. I
Yeah,
I was saying to you just before, I wish I could take full credit for that, but I'm definitely borrowing someone else's idea, but that's fine.
yeah, totally. And yeah, enjoy your goal setting. We're going to post this on each of our Instagram accounts in case you didn't catch the whole thing. You can watch the recording. And we'd love to hear what some of your goals are and what you thought of our tips.
Yeah, and if you have any things that you would love us to cover in future lives, drop those ideas in a comment below, or you can DM either one of us and we'll, yeah, have a look at it.
Yeah, totally. All right. Till next time. See you later.
Bye.